what is not currently offered in Create that makes us less competitive?
One of the most important there is the electricity deduction, Mr. President.
Okay, I understand because electricity was on the top of the list. So,
correct.
Since hindi natin ma-resolve yun head-on, by way of deduction na lang. Okay,
Correct.
I can understand that.
If we look at the list of deductions, Mr. President, we also, let me just go through the list. Yeah. Okay. We increased it from additional 50% deductibility to 100% deductibility. And then we also increased we also added expense related to exhibitors, trade missions, and trade fairs. This is for marketing. And the rationale here is to encourage exporters to go out and sell their goods outside of the Philippines because export is one of our biggest dollar inputs that improves our currency balance. So initially in the old Create, there's no deductibility for additional deductibility for expenses related to exhibitors. We added 50% for that, and then they can choose whether they will go with the easier SIT or the enhanced deduction that will make their manufacturing company competitive because they can apply for those additional deductibility, Mr. President. So, in other words, they have a list. They can choose what's best for their business.
Understand. This list of enhanced deductions that His Honor is discussing is for IPA registered investors. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr.
They are,
President.
yeah. So, because when you mentioned that there's now additional deduction for those who have expenses related to their trade missions, exhibitions in trade missions or trade fairs, it makes me think of the small businesses. I just came from the cacao, the chocolate, the cacao Congress in Cebu a few weeks ago. Wow, there was like thousands of farmers, small businesses present there, and one of their requests is support to attend trade missions. None of them, I'm certain, are registered in IPAs.
They're MSMEs.
So yeah, and I know that under this Create More, you have another section for any type of investors. If I'm not mistaken, right? You have this where you have this list of benefits for IPA registered, and you have another list for just regular investors. And so, how do we? Because when you talk about trade missions, and I actually think the biggest beneficiaries would be small businesses.
Yeah.
This are and it could be artisanal, but it could also be really high in research, and we know very well that our inventors don't get enough support. So I feel bad that this is now just being extended to IPA registered businesses.
20% of your goods, you can enjoy VAT zero rating on all your purchases domestically, Mr. President. So if you are a small company but you export 70%, then you can get zero rating in your domestic purchases, Mr. President. That will make you competitive globally and competitive vis-a-vis other markets, Mr. President. So that's a feature that we included here so that we encourage exporters, no matter what size they are, and also to make their goods competitive, Mr. President.
They're not yet exporters. They want to be exporters. That's why they joined the trade fair, and it may require kumbaga sa artista, it may require na nakailang palabas ka muna. Pakita mo muna yung sarili mo ng ilang beses bago ka mapansin. So anyway, can I just park that idea?
Yeah, we'll take note of that.
Really,
the MSMEs will take note of that and think about how.
Yeah, I mean, and in fact, it may not even be in Create More, but I don't like to leave it behind. And in our defense of Create, we were mindful of this to the extent that if there's another vehicle, another law, other policies that we can ensure covers, captures, supports this sector of the small businesses. We should be able to do that. In fact, earlier, DBP President was here,
Yeah.
and a discussion I left off where my discussion last week on the SIPP. His Honor had given an example. So my issue was Create More now introduces this idea of having a local SIPP. SIPP is the Strategic Investment Priority Plan. So I'd like to read what the current Create Law states and what the Create More is proposing. Create, simple lang naman to on the Strategic Investment Priority Plan, this is Section 300,
Yes.
the Board of Investment, in coordination with the Fiscal Incentive Review Board and the IPAs, other government agencies, and the private sector shall formulate the national SIPP. Okay? So, simple lang, si BOI in consultation with FIRB. The proposed amendment now, the amendment in the committee report now, has a insertion in the latter part of that same section that says each investment promotion agency, each IPA, in consultation with the Board of Investment may formulate their own SIPP, which shall be known as the local SIPP. So that's an area of confusion for me, and His Honor and I left off with His Honor giving an example being halal food, correct?
Halal.
His Honor
Correct.
remembers, okay.
Correct.
So ito po yung situation that I see. His Honor said that, for example, in Mindanao, it's very possible that unoptimized, hindi pa na-optimize yung potential natin to promote halal food, to produce halal food, to manufacture, to process, so on and so forth. So you want to give the local agencies that ability to include them in the SIPP. That is my understanding of the example that His Honor gave, correct? Okay. Law, may tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Necessarily, if food manufacturing, which I think is a medyo lower level type of manufacturing, but it can still receive incentives. If you are located in Metro Manila, you will get less incentives kasi nga the objective is to push the investments in industries outside of Metro Manila. So necessarily, the Create Law already captures that scenario na kung dun sa lugar sa Mindanao, outside of the cities, even sa Visayas, even sa Luzon, so in the same business, somebody could be creating halal food in Taguig City, for that matter in Valenzuela, and then somewhere in the Visayas and Mindanao, they will all receive naman the incentives. Kaya pinakamaliit yung sa Metro Manila kasi nga, pinopromote natin yung sa malayo. Ngayon, once you let these local SIPPs come up with their own, lalo magkakagulo kasi yung create, naset na So, based on location, ito yung incentives mo, and based on the type of activity. Meron may formula na tayo So, bakit gusto nyo pang dagdagan? Hindi ko talaga maintindihan kung ba't kailangan dagdagan yun. Kasi we will go back to the uncertain macroeconomic policies. We will go back to the race to the bottom. That is